Enjoy this Wild Soul Gathering production. I'm Dr. Sandra Marie. Pour yourself a really tall glass of spiritual curiosity and join me for the Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious podcast. In the spirit of happy hour, cheers to some new insights, peace, revitalization, and perhaps an aha moment that may change your life. Welcome, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us today. In the studio, I have Mary Armendarez. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, Sandra.
Well, I'm really excited to have you here. This is going to be a really great show today. We're going to talk about self-confidence, self-worth, self-respect, how to support our needs, our goals, and our desires. Now, who doesn't need a little benefit from that? I know I certainly can. And Mary, you're an intuitive healer, a spiritual teacher, a motivational speaker, just to name a few things. But you're a specialist in power retrieval healing. That just intrigues me. Let's start with that. What is power retrieval healing?
Well, power retrieval healing is what we all need because we don't realize every time we get upset or every time we put ourselves down, all those things are taking a piece of us, right? It's a little piece of Mary going away every time I don't respect myself or I don't self-honor myself. Through what's happened in my life, I was always giving my energy to somebody else. I was letting other people tell me what to do, which was against my will. That was big chunks of myself, my self-esteem being given away, just given away. And all of a sudden you're filled with anxiety, fear, stress. You can't sleep. What I've learned to do is how to go back to those times where I've given my energy away. I've given my free will away because we're supposed to have free will here, to learn how to call that back so that I can start healing those traumas. I can start healing and forgiving myself and the others that have done this to me. And I've created this victim consciousness within me. Basically, power retrieval is going back and looking at, since you were a child, looking back then. It's where it all started. Because our free will was taken from us. Like when our parents would tell us, you're so little, you have your little ball, you're playing with your ball, and your mom's like, no, you got to share it. I don't want to share that ball. There is a little piece, right? There's a little piece going away. Basically, what I do is go back and look at those traumas, look at those times where we've let our power go away, and I teach you how to claim it, bring it back so you become whole again and balanced.
That is really valuable work. Everyone's experienced that at some point in their life, and many of us take that into our adulthood, and it truly becomes a pattern, and that pattern really holds us back from growing in the earth plane as well as growing ourselves spiritually. It's interesting when you look back, most of the beliefs many of us have are beliefs that aren't even our beliefs. They're beliefs that were given to us as a child growing up in our environment, not only from our parents, but from our teachers, from the news media. If we were involved in some kind of an organized religion, from our minister, we start out many times being told what to believe, who we are, and we get lost in it. And then when we go on a journey to try and find ourselves, there's a lot of conflict with that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So I was raised Catholic. I'm from a family of 10, so I'm the 9th child. And we went to church every single Sunday. And I used to sit in that church and cry and go, I just want to feel loved. I've never felt loved. The beliefs that how I grew up was God was bad. God was going to condemn you if you did something wrong. So these belief systems just really impacted me as a young girl and as I grew up. So now I went to a Catholic school and I had a baby at 18. So could you imagine how the guilt and the shame that I had? It was horrible. The guilt and the shame and the blame and all of that. Absolutely. You totally get programmed as a young child. And again, it's against who we are. Why are we here, right? We are here to learn that this is an illusion, all of the religious beliefs. And I'm not saying anything bad about religion. Everybody has their own beliefs and it works for you. That's wonderful. But the religion gets so pounded in us. And Sandra, it gets pounded into our cells, in our DNA. And it comes from our past lives as well, right? So now we got to go in, and that's another thing I do, go in and clean that out of our cells and our atoms in every space, because people don't understand. We keep repeating the same thing because we got that anxiety, that guilt, the shame of what we were taught as young children. The greatest way, how a technique that works for me is I teach people how to go into the violet fire. So violet is the energy of transformation and forgiveness. And you go in and you go back and you think about, oh my gosh, I was programmed that God will never forgive me, right? God will never forgive me. I'll never be able to step out into my power. You go back. I forgive and I let go. I forgive even what I don't even understand. I'm forgiving. I forgive. Those are such powerful words and such a powerful tool to start training yourself when you start feeling that vibration go off, because we all start to feel it. And it comes back from our ancestors too, right? We're picking it all up from our ancestors. We're picking up all the religious beliefs. We're picking up, most of us were healers. We're not allowed to be healers now because it scares the crap out of us that somebody's going to put a dagger into us, or you know what I mean? It's all such built up inside of us. It's completely programmed inside of us.
Oh, absolutely. I also grew up Catholic. I've spent a lot of time searching and trying to experience a lot of things. And what I realize is when you get into the pure teachings, they're beautiful, but that was not my experience either. It was always fear, punishment, what I shouldn't do. And then, the guilt is just overwhelming. And honestly, it took many years into my adult life really to make peace with that. And my guess is I could say I've made peace with it and I've consciously grown out of it, but it still creeps up. It all still creeps up. But you touched on something that I have recently become more and more interested in, especially it's come up with some work that my daughter has been doing, and that is with ancestral lineage and how much we bring in from our ancestral background and how much our ancestors are actually cheering us on in the background. There is a lady out there called, her name is Teal Swan, and she's doing a lot of work with ancestral healing. She does a lot of work, actually interesting, with single parenthood, and that we wear that with a badge of courage, and society sees this as a positive, powerful thing, but it's not. And it's not how we as humans were meant to raise families, and the importance of having, that support of a partner or family and friends. Talk a little more about the ancestral part of it and the ancestral healing and how that can affect us, and we are so unconscious of it.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. When we come to planet Earth, we go to many different places, right? As we're evolving. So our soul stays in heaven, right? And just a little drop of Sandra and Mary come here to experience Earth. Now, why are we here? We are here to learn that fear is an illusion, right? Because we get so wrapped up in our mind, and love conquers all. Okay, that's why we're here. The only place, it's planet Earth, where we have our past lives, our ancestry lineage affects us. This is the only place in the great cosmos. So we're so lucky to be here and come down with all this baggage, and we've got to learn how to, go through this, and hopefully we make it. So we evolve. So our soul in heaven is always learning, right? Constantly learning. What happens is when we're here and all of a sudden we're like, wow, why do I always feel like I can't move forward? What is going on? Why can't I move forward in my life? This pattern keeps popping up, this repeat pattern. And it's not me consciously thinking of this, but it's always coming up. That is coming from your ancestors, right? We could say that to make myself feel good, I always need a full fridge, let's say. I always need food to feel good. I always need to feel safe by having my refrigerator full because now I'm going to be content. Well, you don't know that your ancestors totally were starving to death, were so insecure about being able to feed their family, all of that. That affects you today. So how do you go in and clear that? You go into what I say, because I use two things, a violet fire river and a violet fire ocean. Now, the violet fire ocean is the whole entire body of the consciousness and all your ancestors. So you call them all in. You call them all in. And this is when they start clapping because they're going, thank you, Mary, for clearing this, because you're clearing it for me. You're clearing it for yourself, and you're clearing it for 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. You go in. I forgive. I forgive this feeling, this emotion, this hunger that I'm feeling of not being able to provide for my family. And you just start releasing this, your ancestors' past patterns that are affecting you in your daily life, because it truly does affect you, and you're completely unaware of that. So when you use your imagination, you can do a lot of healing, right? And like I said, the violet fire, people have probably heard of that. It truly helps clear and transform and forgive anything that is in your field, anything that is in your DNA, anything that is in your cells, in your atoms. So what I like to do is have my clients or myself all the time walk into the ocean. And when you walk into this ocean, you are sensing and feeling that energy flow through you, and you call in your ancestors. You call them all in, and you will see them. You will sense them. And if you can't see, it doesn't matter. The energy still works. And I think that's a big point we need to point out, Sandra, as well, is that the energy, just because you can't see the colors and all of that, it's so important just to know that it works. So you call in all your ancestors, and you just simply say, I release, I forgive for all of us. I release and forgive anything that I am carrying around from my past lives, from my ancestors. I release it and let it go. And I send it love. Those are such powerful words you can use. And you can start seeing. So, you could go to more specific thing like, for being in poverty or always being so concerned of, I'm not going to have enough, or, whatever, my husband's going to die. I just know it. I'm so scared, whatever it is, it really affects you. And you can, and it's so amazing how easy it is to clear it once you start doing this. So you just simply go in the violet fire ocean and call them all in and just clear it. I forgive it. I forgive it for me. I forgive it for you. I forgive it for all our ancestors. And you'll just see this black gunk just start to leave. It's powerful, very powerful. That's the best tip I can give for that.
Wow, Mary, I'm so glad that you brought up, people really tend to get hung up on, if they're doing it right, it goes right into that self-worth, the self-esteem. People are talking about their experiences, and you're like, well, I don't see any colors, or I didn't have that happen, or everything seems the same. I mean, I can speak from personal experience. I've been that person at different times. But I also recognize that, hey, something's going on here that's powerful. And I do have energy. I often share the story when I first got into Reiki, and I was going on my Reiki journey, and I really had sort of a doubting Thomas kind of thing. It was my shift from I'll say the religious world to the more spiritual, living consciously world. My grandkids were about, I would say, 2 and 4 at the time. So I would shoot energy across the room at them. sitting on the couch going, I wonder if this really works. And like the little guy would turn around and he'd be like, Mimi, what are you doing to us? And I'd like jump up on the couch and I'm like, nothing, not doing anything. And then I would like look at my hands and I'm like, did I really shoot energy out of my hands over there? So of course they're playing and I do it again. And again, they turn around and they're like, you're doing something to us. And it was like, wow, there really is something happening here. I love that you shared with folks. Don't get caught up in all of that because it's going to be unique and a little different for everyone. And don't get caught up in other people's experiences. Your experience is definitely unique to yourself. You talk about the violet light a lot. So I always associate the violet light with Saint Germain. I'm just going to ask, is it a Saint Germain thing or is that just the energy of the light that you use?
It's the energy of the light that I use. And I was taught about the energy of the violet fire from the angels. And it truly clears you. So when your mind is racing constantly, when we're in that ego mind and trying to control things, the chakra on the top of your head is violet, right? Once you learn how to put on that violet hat or that violet flame to flow through your head, you're clearing your head so you can think clearly and be in your intuitive brain instead of being in that masculine controlling mind. Yes, I use the violet flame for everything. Everybody should be using the violet flame constantly because it clears you. It clears that obsessive of thinking, that fear, being in a victim consciousness. It's the greatest thing when you're going down that guilty path and that victim consciousness and unworthy to receive all of that nonsense. You put on that violet, beautiful, flaming hat. It'll clear your mind. And then you ramp it up one more thing. Then you start bringing in the other colors that you do want to feel. So what do we want to feel? We want to feel successful. We want to feel like our intuitive, creative imagination is flowing through us. So what do we want to bring in? We want to bring in the color of turquoise. Dreams come true. We want to bring in more of pink, love, self-respect. The colors truly are our spiritual energy batteries that we need to be constantly filling up so we can be in balance. It's just like people go around, oh, I don't feel grounded. I don't feel grounded. And you have to stop and go, what am I feeling? What do I need? Oh, I need to be filled with Divine Mother's ruby love. So you drink that ruby love in, so you're bringing that energy in and it's flowing down into your root chakra where now you're feeling safe and secure. So there's a lot of great ways to use the beautiful colors that we are given here to expand ourselves, right? The chakras are truly a real deal here. But now we need to learn how to use those colors so we're not going down those paths anymore. We're bringing in our energy. We're bringing our power back. We're retrieving ourselves.
Well said, well said. And absolutely, the chakras are very real. What's interesting, and people will say, I'm here on Schoolroom Earth. There's another fellow that I'm taking my Mastering Alchemy classes. He talks about the game of Earth. We come down here to play the game. We set the game board up. So there's a lot of different ways that it's shared. But as we talk about it as our spiritual selves and the energy and the different layers were so multidimensional and layered. There's a lot of sacred geometry that goes with it. There's a lot of power in the vibrations of the geometry. There's vibrations that come from the colors. There's vibrations that come from the sound. And there's a lot of coding that's coded in those different colors and those sounds. I agree with you. It's very powerful. It's very simple. Embrace it and you work with it. Before we got started, you were talking about the earth elements and you had shared with me a deck of cards that you had. Actually, they caught my attention in your background. And you were sharing how you use these cards and the earth elements for clearing The other thing I found interesting was when you brought them up for traveling, because honestly, I hadn't thought about that. I was thinking about my own personal space. Do you want to share that with the listeners?
Yes, I would love to. This is what I'm very, very passionate about. Why we're on planet Earth right now. Let's just talk about planet Earth. What is planet Earth? Planet Earth is a being. She's a gorgeous being. She's our mother while we're here. She holds so much power for us. And I don't think people realize that when we go stand outside and put our feet on the ground, and all we have to simply say, she's our mom. Our moms are supposed to nurture us, right? They're supposed to love us and care for us.
Absolutely.
And I know that I didn't get that being in a family of 10. I go outside, you put your feet on the ground, and you just say, Mother, I call her mom, Mom, I released all the fear and anxiety and stress that I am carrying around within me. If it's mine, if it's somebody else that I'm carrying around, I release it down to you. And as soon as you do that, that is just all that stress is just coming out through your feet and then down into earth. And then she'll just bring it back up to you. And boy, do you feel great. But so I have the 4 earth elements cards. They're sacred cards. I created them. The top card, what we start with, is the element of the air, or you could say the power of the north. And so when you call on the power of the north and the element of the air, you're actually calling on Archangel Gabriel. So this is powerful. Archangel Gabriel comes through this element. She, he, whatever you want, because we're both divine feminine, masculine, and Gabriel can come in both ways when we call on that angel. She comes in and she helps us communicate. So how I use air element, I call on Archangel Gabriel. I ask her, help me to communicate today. Help me communicate today. And I went like this before we started this call. I said, guides, angels, Archangel Gabriel, please communicate with Sandra, guides and angels, so we can have a beautiful conversation. We can both understand each other. Look how powerful that is, right?
Absolutely.
It's so powerful. So that's how I use that. So that starts at the north. Then we go to the east. And then we call on the power of the east. And here comes the element of fire. Wow, powerful fire. Who's associated with fire? Archangel Michael. So now we are calling on this really powerful being. And fire brings in the passion, the creative energy that lives within our bellies, right? When you're stuck and you can't create, like we all go through, you call on that element of the fire. And so that goes to the east. And then you're calling in the big angel, Archangel Michael, and you stop and you just sense and you bring it in. And then we go down to the south, the power of the south. And that is Archangel Ariel. And that's the earth. And you call on that energy. Ooh, and you just say, and you release, like I told you, you release the anxiety, the fear. You imagine that dirt. You imagine your legs going deep, 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 all the way down to Mother Earth. And then she'll shoot that energy up. So we're making a sacred, we're healing circle, right? Now we're going to the west. The west is the power of water, emotion, and the archangel that is associated with the water element is Archangel Raphael, right? So he comes in with this major energy to let our feelings and our emotions flow through us. So what do we want to bring in? We want to bring in success. We want to bring in more love. We want to bring in more self-respect. That angel is so powerful to help us heal. So now we're going all the way around. Now we're going to go into the center. Now in the center is the power of ether. Now ether is what brings it all together and makes that magic happen, makes that power coming even stronger. And the angel that's associated with that is Archangel Metatron. So Metatron comes in and says, bingo, you called us all in. Now we're here. What do you want to bring in? What do you want to manifest? What do you want to change in your life? How do you want us to open up this beautiful space in your home, your office, wherever you go, to bring these energies in of divine love and light, and nothing can touch you? It's so powerful. So that's how that works.
Wow, that's a lot. That is very powerful, and what a tool to have all those beings there. I certainly call on each of them
Mhm.
many times and have them with me pretty much all the time, I honestly feel. You do an Archangel Michael protection meditation. What's that like?
Yes, I do. Oh gosh, this is incredible. Every single human being needs to know how to work with Archangel and how to work with his power. Because what is he? He's the power of truth, right? He comes in, he will help you get rid of people that are clinging on to you and sucking your energy. See, there we go, back to power retrieval, right? Sucking our energy, taking us, depleting us. With Archangel Michael's meditation, this is so cool. The greatest tip I can give your listeners is to call on Archangel Michael, and you ask him, you pull his sword out. His sapphire blue sword is like a laser. And you have him put it straight down the top of your head, all the way down your spine. And then it just expands, and goes around you. That protects you. So when you go out in your daily life and you're going to the grocery store, you're going to wherever, especially when you're sensitive and you're really opening up to the different vibrations, you're going to get attacked, right? Especially if you don't know how to control it. With Archangel Michael's sword down your back, it protects you from getting any psychic attacks, any entities, anybody that you're walking into their vibration and they're negative. That sword down your back protects you. The meditation that I offer teaches you how to put the sword down your back.
Well, I certainly will be using that. I know that you have it on your website and it's free to anyone who wants to use it. It's something that just is always good to have in your back pocket because we run into those situations all the time, especially as empaths.
Yes. So there's one thing I want to add to that. If you're going to a hospital, you're going to a bar, you're going to any of those places where there's drinking or sorrow or death, that's where you're really going to get attacked. Another tip for that, with Archangel Michael's sword down your back, what you want to do. So we have a Christ chakra, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the Christ chakra is the bump on the back of your neck. That's where your soul energy goes in and your soul energy goes out. So this Christ chakra, which means light, needs to be protected. And if you ever see the real old spiritual teachers, they always have a scarf around their neck, right? Because they're protecting that spot. What you want to do is you want to put your perfume or good old vanilla extract, whatever you have, that the scent that you enjoy, you just put a dab of that right there on that Christ chakra. And that'll help protect you too from other people's energies. So those are two really important tools for people to start using daily. I won't go out unless I have Archangel Michael's sword down my neck and I have a little dab of perfume on that Christ chakra.
That's really interesting. And certainly working in healthcare and having spent a lot of my career as a nurse in emergency departments, that would have been a great tool. I did have some other little spiritual things that I would take with me for work, for protection. Definitely for my nursing colleagues and all of you healthcare workers out there, that might be something that you want to give a try.
No, it'll be amazed how well it does work. You will feel it.
Let's go backwards a little bit. You mentioned a little bit about your growing up and that Catholic background and some events in your life. Can you talk a little bit more about your personal journey, how you got to where you're at right now, doing such amazing work to raise the consciousness of humanity and just help individuals on their growth?
Yeah, I absolutely would love to talk about this. When I was a child, we lived in Northern California, and my parents still live there in a 3-story, over 100-year-old home. And I was the first one born in there. So I had, all 8 siblings above me. And I always could feel negative energy in that house. And I always sensed like crazy stuff going on in that house. I could see the house bleeding, and all of this. And we didn't have a TV. And I'd go, why, now that I grew up, I'm like, why was I seeing that? We didn't even have a TV. So was it my imagination or whatever? But what I learned was that there was a murder in that house. And in that particular room where I'd see the walls bleeding, it was where the murder took place. So I was super psychic as a child. And I had a little visitor that would come and sit on my bed. And he looked like a little elf. And he would like protect me from the negative energy in the home. So I was always the weird kid, so I could feel everybody's energy. I, could sense everything in my home. And as I grew up, my parents put me in Catholic school and all of that. And I had a really hard time in school, and I ended up getting pregnant at 18. And so I had the shame and the guilt, and just it was the worst to feel that energy of just, I felt like I was doing, being pregnant was a bad thing and I shouldn't have this baby. And people would be like, are you sure you want this baby? I'm like, yeah, I'm keeping this baby. So I went and lived with my mom and dad because of the guilt and shame and the blame and the way they looked at me. And it was I was a big disappointment, basically. And so I ended up marrying a man who was 15 years older than me. So I was 20 years old when I started seeing this man, and he absolutely broke me down because I was such a big, bright light. So I gave my energy to him. I gave my power to him. I gave up my free will to him. I was just absolutely miserable, but didn't know I was miserable, if that makes sense to you, because I didn't know what was happening at the time. People would look at me and go, wow, you're such this most beautiful human being, and you're getting mentally beat up constantly. And I was so scared I would just, do what he said, because I don't want to be beat up anymore and tell me that I'm dumb and I'm this and I'm that. As all these years went on, my daughter, who was then like 25 years old, 28 years old, whatever, and she says, Mom, you need to read this book on the angels. And I said, oh, yeah, sure. Picked up this book on the angels. And Sandra, everything just started coming into place. It was like, holy moly, you've been giving your power away. You have gone so far down of unworthy, guilty, shame. I mean, those are the lowest vibrations you can go. That's how I was feeling. Now I could blame him for treating me like poo poo, or I can go, okay, enough's enough. I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I'm not going to let my self worth go down this horrible path and feel guilty for everything I did. To buy something, I had to ask permission to, anything I did, I had to constantly ask for permission. Who wants to live like that? So I ended up finally getting the courage to get a divorce, and my power started coming back. And then I started learning that I could go back as a child and start taking my power back as a child. When somebody did rotten things to me or I did things to them, I learned that I can go back and get my power. You could go all the way back and being in the womb when you knew your mom didn't want you. That's the beginning of it all. It's like coming to planet Earth not even wanted. Are you kidding me? We're supposed to be happy here. We're supposed to be in our creative genius. So I started learning how to bring all my energies and my power back. And then I said to my daughter, let's open a business. She said, yeah, sure, let's do it. We started our business with essential oils and all this. And then the angels came to me and they said, nope, you're going to make self-healing kits, tools, tangible. And I said, okay. So I made these wonderful, beautiful, you could see on my website, kits. Guess what? Nordstrom calls me and says, we want your kits. Can we have your kits in Nordstrom for Christmas? My kits sold out in 2 weeks. And I said, okay, angels. Oh my God, it makes me want to cry. Okay, angels, thank you. I know I'm on my right path.
How cool.
So now it's snowballed into, Mary, you went through literally hell. And now you know how to go to heaven on earth, right? Because there's no such thing as hell. We create our own hell. And I created my own hell, and we create our own reality. And that's why it's so important to look back and go, no, I got to stop leaking my energy. I got to stop giving my power away, right? And so now that's why I'm here, is to help other people stand up. No, step into your mastery. You have the power within you. We're here, each and every one of us, to help each other raise our vibration, go back to love. And that fear is a freaking illusion. And we need to put our foot down and say no more. So that's basically my story.
Mary, that's a very powerful story that many people are going to relate to, going to make a difference in so many people's lives. I love that your daughter is the one who led you to your healing. How cool is that? Especially when we were talking about ancestral healing. That's just incredible. Mary, you've used the term one step closer to happiness. Your own will is what you need to set you free. I would love for you to delve a little more in depth into that concept.
Right. Okay. So one step closer to happiness. What does that mean? That means that we can step into, right, our mastery. And how are we going to do that? We're going to start letting go of that ego mind and coming back into our feminine intuitive brain, right? Because that's where you are happy. And people don't realize how powerful our minds are. But our minds can make us stay in hell, or it can get us into happiness. So how do we do that? What we do is called a brain switch. Okay. So when we're in that, like we discussed earlier, when we're in that ego mind of controlling, how are we going to control the future, right? Oh no, is the past going to come back again? So now we're going back in the old female thinking of guilt, shame in the past, or we're in the controlling old male way of thinking. How am I going to control this? How am I going to do this? So this is what we do when we're in that repeat in the nonsense of our brain. We're going to go in, we're going to stand underneath that violet fire of transformation and forgiveness, and we're going to let it flow through us. And then this is where the magic happens. Once we clear our mind, we're going to start bringing in the energy of divine love, the energy and the power of the divine feminine. The divine feminine is the greatest power there is. That is where happiness lives. That is where we are in perfect balance, one with our divinity, one with our humanity. So we're doing a brain switch. We're stepping into the divine feminine power that lives within us. Now, when the divine feminine power is working at a highest vibration, that's when those intuitive hits come in. That's when the creation comes in, the creative ideas come in. Come on, look what I went through. I had my whole entire college, everything, the best of the best. And I got pregnant. And I went down this crappy way for 30 years. Now I know how to switch my brain so I can step into my happiness. And we all have the ability to do that. And it's simply by switching your brain from the old male, turn off that thinking, step into the higher vibration of the divine feminine. I call in the power of the divine feminine to come through me, through my mind, through my throat, through my heart. So I am balanced, so I can stay in happiness. These are beautiful, powerful tools. Does that answer your question? I kind of went off a little bit.
It sure does. Actually, as you were doing it, it was almost, I could feel the energy as you were talking with the tools, and I was started breathing it in. I can only imagine how powerful they get if I was starting to feel that just as you were describing it. There's a lot of talk about the shift. I believe that we're in a massive shift in humanity and Earth, and that the Earth is stepping up and taking a stronger role. And as I find nature to be very healing, I believe that we're moving out of thousands of years of male-dominated energy, and the divine feminine is now coming back and being infused into everything that's going on, which is creating a bit of chaos as people hold on to the old, because the divine feminine has been held down. And really, we need a balance. I love that you talk a lot about the divine feminine and the importance of it. The other thing I do want to mention, Mary, is I give you a lot of kudos to listening to that message. You and your daughter opened this business, and you were on track with one thing, and you were given a direct message, however that message came to you, and you just sort of went with it, and great things happened. Many times we do get a direct message and we acknowledge it and we jump into it, and other times not so much, and we get a few kicks in the behind because we don't.
Yeah, that is so true. Talking about that is absolutely right. So my best advice is to bring in that more of that divine feminine energy. When any of us are feeling off, it's usually because we're not feeling safe and secure, right? Our divine feminine has to feel safe and secure to be creative, to listen to those intuitive hits, to listen to our guides and angels. Now, the best tool that I can give your listeners to stay grounded and to keep that divine feminine energy flowing through you, this is so cool. All you do is imagine you're sitting. Now, remember, you don't have to use your imagination. It's all intention. You just set your intention. I set my intention that I am sitting on a ruby red, because ruby red is the power of the divine feminine, hot plate. Okay. So you're sitting on a ruby red hot plate. It's not hot. It's not going to burn you. It's just the energy. And you just imagine that energy flowing up through your bottom, all the way up your spine, and then expand, 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 and watch how you're going to feel. You're going to feel incredible. You are 100% right. The divine feminine is coming more and more into our planet Earth, thank goodness. And the hierarchy, old masculine energy is on its way out. We're going to see a massive shift here.
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm.
Mary, how can folks get a hold of you, and what kind of services are you offering at this time?
What I'm offering is one-on-one coaching for power retrieval. We go through these steps that I've laid out with the help of the angels on how to retrieve your power. And I also offer customized meditations. If you want to get rid of your anxiety, your fear, anything that has been bothering your repeat patterns, we sit down, we have a discussion of what's going on in your life. What do you want to change? Do a customized meditation. And they're super powerful. The way I got started with that was my girlfriend had cancer, and I did custom meditations for her while she was sitting in chemo. She just told me the other day, she goes, "You changed my whole life with those meditations." It's really powerful. Instead of listening to, all meditations are great, but when you have one made just for you, it's so powerful. I do that as well. And then I will be having my first course on power retrievals. I'm excited about that. I will have a book coming out as well on power retrieval,
A book?
Yeah. So I'm excited about that too. So I've been busy.
It sounds like it, and you're doing such meaningful work. You have a variety of tools that you're putting together. I love that you do custom meditations to help people with their unique issues that they're addressing.
Yeah. It makes me want to cry because, I've really helped a lot of people. And, when you feel that love come back, it's just, that it's so powerful. It's so powerful when people are like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." And I'm like, thank yourself for being willing. Here we go. Being willing to change, because it all starts with being willing, right? We can say, yeah, sign me up. But if you're not willing and you don't set those intentions, nothing's going to change in your life.
Totally agree. Mary, is there anything else that you would like to share with the listeners?
But all I would love to say is start filling up with more self-respect, fill up with more self-love, and then you've got the courage to move your life in any way you want to move your life. Believe me, if I can do it, you can do it. And I just send everybody love and healing. And thank you for having me on the show today.
Oh, it has been a gift it's been a gift having you on Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. I know this is going to have such a positive influence for the listeners. So Mary, thank you for all the really powerful, important work you're doing. And for all our listeners out there, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Mary, have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Wild Soul Gatherings Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. To learn more about our guests, please go to our website, wildsoulsgathering.com. We're very eager to hear from our listeners what you thought of the episode, topics you might like us to cover in the future, your thoughts on spirituality, questions you may have. Please feel free to send us an email at wildsoulsgathering@gmail.com. This is your host, Dr. Sandra Marie, sending each of you peace and love. Until we meet again, embrace your wild soul.